Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. For a Brahmana, there are 6 occupational duties. A Kshatriya should not accept charity, but he may perform the other 5 of these duties. A king or Kshatriya is not allowed to levy taxes on Brahmanas, but he may make his livelihood by levying minimal taxes, customs duties, and penalty fines upon his other subjects. Please repeat after me. For a Brahmana, there are 6 occupational duties. A Kshatriya should not accept charity, but he may perform the other 5 of these duties. A king or Kshatriya is not allowed to levy taxes on Brahmanas, but he may make his livelihood by levying minimal taxes, customs duties, and penalty fines upon his other subjects. Purport. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains the position of Brahmanas and Kshatriyas as follows. Brahmanas have 6 occupational duties, of which 3 are compulsory, namely studying the Vedas, worshipping the deity and giving charity. By teaching, by inducing others to worship the deity, and by accepting gifts, the Brahmanas receive the necessities of life. This is also confirmed in the Manu Samhita. Sanam tu karmanam asya trini karmani jivika yajana japane chaiva vishuddhacha pratigraha. Of the 6 occupational duties of the Brahmanas, 3 are compulsory, namely worship of the deity, study of the Vedas, and the giving of charity. In exchange, a Brahmana should receive charity, and this should be his means of livelihood. A Brahmana cannot take up any professional occupational duty for his livelihood. The Shastras especially stress that if one claims to be a Brahmana, he cannot engage in the service of anyone else. Otherwise, he at once falls from his position and becomes a Sudra. Srila Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami belonged to a very respectful family, but because they engaged in the service of Nawab Hussain Shah, not even as ordinary clerks, but as ministers, they were ostracized from Brahminical society. Indeed, they became like Mohammedans and even changed their names. Unless a Brahmana is very pure, he cannot accept charity from others. Charity should be given to those who are pure. Even if one is born in a family of Brahmanas, if one acts as a Sudra, one cannot accept charity, for this is strictly prohibited. Although the Kshatriyas are almost as qualified as the Brahmanas, even they cannot accept charity. This is strictly prohibited in this verse by the word apratigraha. What to speak of the lower social orders? Even the Kshatriyas must not accept charity. The king or government may levy taxes upon the citizens in various ways, by revenue duties, customs duties, realization of fines, and so on. Provided the king is able to give full protection to his subjects to assure the security of their life and property. Jai Shri Sri Radha Gokulananda ki jai, Shri Sri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki jai. I'll read that sentence again. The king or government may levy taxes upon the citizens in various ways, by revenue duties, customs duties, realization of fines, and so on, provided the king is able to give full protection to his subjects to assure the security of their life and property. Unless he is able to give protection, he cannot levy taxes. However, a king must not levy any tax upon the Brahmanas and the Vaishnavas, fully engaged in Krishna consciousness. Om Agyan Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Shtapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantekam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Pada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vansha Kalpa Turubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Srivasari Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So the verse again. Viprasya yanadini ya anadini sad anyasya pratigraha ragyo vriti prajagopto avipradva karadibihi. For a Brahmana there are 6 occupational duties. A Kshatriya should not accept charity, but he may perform the other 5 of these duties. A king or Kshatriya is not allowed to levy taxes on Brahmanas, but he may make his livelihood by levying minimal taxes, customs duties, and penalty fines upon his other subjects. So Prabhupada mentions that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains what the 6 occupational duties are. 3 of them are compulsory, that is, studying the Vedas, worshipping the deity, and giving charity. So if one wants to be a Brahmana, one must study the Vedas. But actually, in this day and age, it's not possible for us to study the Vedas in their original form. But fortunately, Srila Prabhupada has provided us the opportunity of studying the Vedas in the form of his books, which are understandable to Kali Yugaites like us, or like me anyway. And actually, even of all Srila Prabhupada's books, Srila Prabhupada quotes that in the introduction to the Bhagavad Gita, the Gita Mahatmya, in which he says that in this present age, people are so unfortunate because they're totally absorbed in mundane activities. But this doesn't matter because the Bhagavad Gita is the essence of all Vedic literatures, because it's spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. So just by reading the Bhagavad Gita, we actually can attain the highest destination. Actually, the first verse of the Gita Mahatmya says that one who with a regulated mind recites with devotion this Bhagavad Gita scripture, which is the bestower of all virtue, and of course Brahmanas have to basically be virtuous. And of course we've just had recently all the 30 qualities of a devotee. Well, actually to be followed by all human beings. But the Brahmanas actually have 9 actual qualities listed by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. These qualities are in chapter 18, verse 42. So in that he says that Shamo damas tapashocham shanti arjavamevacha Jnanam vijnanam astikyam brahma karma svabhavajam. So the 9 qualities are shamo, peacefulness. So if you're not peaceful, then we have some work to do. I certainly do. Because actually, Srila Prabhupada does say in this second chapter, verse, I think is it 65 or 66? 66. Nashtir buddhi ayuktasya, na chayuktasya bhavana, na chabhavayata ashantir, ashantasya kuta sukham. One who is not connected with the Supreme in Krishna consciousness can have neither transcendental intelligence nor a steady mind, without which there is no possibility of peace. And how can there be any happiness without peace? So peacefulness is actually essential for happiness. If you could put that on there, that'd be good. Get it out of the way. Thank you. And Prabhupada actually gives the reason why we're not peaceful. And that reason is that it's for lack of a goal in life. So if we have no lack of a true goal in life, then we can't be peaceful, because there's always disturbance. What am I supposed to do? And if you don't know your path in life, it's very, very disturbing. Just like many of us may have had the experience as youngsters, and you have to decide when you're leaving school, what am I going to do next? And many people, they just don't know. And it's a big problem trying to find the right path. And it's a big disturbance, actually. But of course, Prabhupada says that the real goal, the final goal, is when one is certain that Krishna is the ultimate goal. Just like it says in Srimad Bhagavatam, there's one nice verse, see if I can remember it offhand. Vasudeva, I'll look it up because I always get confused when I'm. But it's a very wonderful verse, but not often quoted. But it's at the end of the second chapter. Vasudeva para Veda, Vasudeva para Makaha, Vasudeva para Yoga, Vasudeva para Kriyaha, Vasudeva param Jnanam, Vasudeva param Tapaha, Vasudeva paro Dharmo, Vasudeva para Gatihi. So you get the idea. Vasudev is everything. So the translation is, in the revealed scriptures, the ultimate object of knowledge is Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. The ultimate object of knowledge is Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. So the Brahmanas, their first duty is to study the Vedas. Why? To know Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The purpose of performing sacrifice is to please him. Vasudeva para Makaha. Makaha means sacrifice. Vasudeva para Yoga. The yoga is for realizing him. Because obviously yoga means union, means connection with the Supreme. Vasudeva para Kriyaha. All fruitive activities are ultimately rewarded by him only. So we think that we're doing so many activities, but in actual fact, because we're encouraged by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita not to be attached to the result. That's one of the main teachings of Bhagavad Gita. Don't just perform your duty, but don't be attached to the result. But according to this verse, in any way, there's no point in being attached to the result, because he's going to reward whatever activities you engage in. He's the one who's going to actually either reward you in the way that you hope or in some other way. All fruitive activities are ultimately rewarded by him only. Vasudeva param Jnanam. He is supreme knowledge. And Vasudeva param Tapaha. All severe austerities are performed to know him, no other reason. And Vasudeva paro Dharmo. Religion, Dharma, is rendering loving service unto him. And Vasudeva para Gatihi. He is the supreme goal of life. So there is no other actual goal in life, really, than Krishna. But if we don't know that, then it's a big problem and we become very disturbed. So peacefulness becomes impossible. So that's one reason why these Krishna conscious literature is so important, and distribution of this literature, because most people actually are totally ignorant of the ultimate goal of life, because they think that the goal of life is sense gratification, just to enjoy. But also in the second chapter of the first canto of Bhagavatam, it's also explaining that all occupational activities are certainly meant for ultimate liberation. They should never be performed for material gain, which is a pretty heavy statement. Most people would think, if we can't do anything to... that's what the whole of Western materialistic society is based on. You just have to work hard or work smart, and you'll get the results you want. You can get anything, actually, that you want. That's the philosophy of, like personal development philosophy. You just have to direct your mind, your intelligence, and work hard, and you can get anything. But actually that's not the case. Those who are, just like it's obvious in certain cases that some people haven't particularly worked hard, like the founder of Facebook. I'm not on Facebook anymore. I couldn't handle it. It was too much for me. But I was for a little while. Thought I'd try it out, but I'm obviously too old to get into it. But the founder of Facebook is called, what's his name? Mark Zuckerberg, yeah. And and he actually started it up. Why is that funny? Is it a funny name? But he started it off when he was at college, at Harvard University. He was there, which means he's already in a privileged position, because Harvard is a very expensive university. I think it costs like $30,000 or $40,000 or pounds, I don't know which, to go there. I don't know if that's a year or for a whole course, but it's a lot of money, isn't it? Not many people can do that. But while he was at university, he, so he was 18, 19, 20, something like that. He started Facebook. Actually, it was just started off in for the students of Harvard University, and then it extended gradually to. But now it's worth, I don't know how many millions of dollars, but many, many millions of dollars. So, it just came naturally, didn't it? It wasn't something he just did it. It wasn't a big deal. He didn't have to slog away for years on end to try to make a success of it. It just happened. So obviously, it's evidence that he was, from previous lives, probably he was actually due to have this success. Like that. So actually all the efforts that we put in terms of trying to develop our character, develop our thinking and a positive mood and all this kind of thing, it's actually, you can do that for probably many lifetimes and still be unsuccessful if you don't do if you haven't actually performed pious activity, if you haven't pleased the Supreme Lord. Achieving material peace of mind is not or even material well-being is not the ultimate goal of life. The next one is self-control. The second of the 9 is self-control. A brahmana must have self-control, because of course if you don't have self-control, then you become controlled by the senses. And the senses lead you in all different directions. because the senses are very bad masters. They don't know what's good and what's bad for you. So therefore, the higher self has to control the lower self consisting of the material body and the senses. There's one in the Bhagavatam also says, Dristva evatmanishvare, that the chain of fruitive reactions is terminated when one sees the self as master. Now I was a bit puzzled by that at first when I read that. Master? We're not supposed to be the master, it's supposed to be the servant. But it's saying, Drista evat manishvare, ishvare. One realization I have is actually what it just means is that we should see the real self, the actual soul, as being the master, not the body. The body we're not the body, we're eternal soul, and therefore we have to identify with the soul, not with the body. And then the chain of fruitive reactions, karma, will be terminated, will be cut. Incidentally, also that verse also says that Vijite Hridaya Grantish, that that all misgivings are cut to pieces. Shiyante sarva samsayaha, all misgivings are cut to pieces. So then, of course, if all our misgivings, all our doubts are cut to pieces, then we're going to be peaceful, and we can be self-controlled, because we know, just like in medicine, you hear or let's say in popular medicine, you hear so many theories. Do this or do that or do the other. Some are contradictory. So you become very confused and you think, well, actually it's hopeless. What can I do? There's nothing I can really do. Because, I've heard that this thing, one person tells me this is good for you, another person says it's bad for you. So you become very confused. So then you give up. You think, well, in that case, there's no point. I might as well just... but if you're certain, if all your misgivings or your doubts have been cleared away, then you can have determination. And determination is so important. Because without determination, then we're just wavering all over the place. So austerity is the third symptom or natural quality by which a Brahmana works, austerity. And it's very pleasing to Lord Krishna. Just like actually here is mentioned in this purport about Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami. So Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, they were originally from very wealthy families. But they gave it all up. In fact, they were considered practically millionaires at that time. And Rupa Goswami gave the example. He gave away 50% of his wealth. He gave 25% for his family members, and then he kept 25% for personal emergencies. And Sanatana Goswami, after he'd been given one of those personal emergencies, was that Sanatana Goswami was in jail. And so Sanatana Goswami, I think Rupa Goswami gave him some money, somehow or other got some money to him while he was in jail, and he paid off the jailer, and he escaped. And then, anyway, through his travels, he became diseased, and then he had this one very nice blanket. And he could see that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was not very happy. He was looking at this blanket, thinking, he's meant to be a mendicant, but he's got this very luxurious blanket. And so Sanatana Goswami noticed this. So he found a beggar and swapped his blanket, his nice, luxurious blanket, with a beggar's rags, and then went back, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very pleased. And also, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he spoke to Raghunath Das. Of course, he was a great renunciate, and he instructed him, because of course he was like a sannyasi, Raghunath Das. So it's not that we have to follow exactly, but there's one verse which he explained in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that you shouldn't wear very nice clothes or eat very palatable dishes like that. You know the verse? Sorry? Anyway, so of course Raghunath Das, he was going around. Eventually, he was just picking up the rotten pieces of rice, which were in the surrounding the Jagannath temple, which even the cows would ignore, and then he would wash it, and of course it's not recommended for us to do that. So also there's, because it's Jiva Goswami's disappearance day today, so I thought I'd speak a little bit about Jiva Goswami, because the Goswamis are mentioned here, because we are Rupanugas. We're meant to be followers of Rupa Goswami. Jai Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda ki jai. Shri Shri Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman ki jai. Shri Shri Gauranitai ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So, Jiva Goswami was a very empowered living entity. It's actually described, I just read this morning, that he's considered to be Vilas Manjari. And he was born to another brother of Rupa and Sanatan called, his name's gone out of my head. What's his name? Vallabha, Sri Vallabha, yeah, that's it. Or he was originally Anupam, but then he became Vallabha. So he was actually the nephew of Rupa and Sanatan. And it's said that he actually, as a child, a very small child, he actually saw Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then he always kept the vision of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his mind, in his heart, from that time onwards. And then his father passed on. He left this world on the bank of the Ganges, and he was devastated, Srila Jiva Goswami. And then he gave up all attachment to this material world. And he wanted to join his uncles. But first of all, actually, he went to Navadvip. And he met Nityananda Prabhu there. And Nityananda Prabhu showed him around all the holy places. And then he went on to Vrindavan, and he took initiation from Sri Rupa Goswami. And actually he also, he studied under Madhusudan Vachaspati, who was allegedly a disciple of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, after Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya had been instructed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and converted into a Vaishnava. So Srila Jiva Goswami became incredibly learned. But at the same time he performed very menial service for Srila Rupa and Sanatan. And there's one very nice story where there was one scholar, one Digvijay. I think his name was Rupa Narayan. And he was a very puffed up scholar, and he was going around challenging all scholars in the area. And he came to Navadvip. No, of course he was in, actually, I don't know if you've been to Navadvip. That's probably somebody else. That's another scholar, another Digvijay. But he came to Vrindavan because he'd heard that the six Goswamis, the Rupa and Sanatan, were great scholars. And he challenged them. And Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami were so humble, although they were also great sages. They're so humble that they said, and they didn't want to waste their time with a debate with such a person like that. So they said, okay, we don't need to we don't need to debate with you. You win anyway. They just, and he had this habit, this Rupa Narayan. He had this habit of getting the defeated personalities to sign it was called a Vijay Patra, something like that, a victory leaf. Patra means leaf. So they would sign that they'd actually been defeated by Rupa Narayan. So he had all these leaves signed by his scholars. So they just said, "Oh, just give us the leaf and we'll sign it, no problem." So he was jubilant about this, and so he went away and he was proclaiming that he defeated Rupa and Sanatan, the great scholars, and that he was the Digvijay, the greatest scholar of them all. So Jiva Goswami, he was just a young man at that time, but he'd already developed a reputation for being a great scholar. So Rupa Narayan thought, well, I better actually defeat him as well. Otherwise, people might have some doubts that I'm not the greatest. So he challenged Jiva Goswami, and Jiva Goswami, just as a young man, you could say maybe he became a little incensed that his guru, Rupa Goswami, and he also considered Sanatan Goswami, because actually Rupa Goswami considered Sanatan Goswami as his guru, that he couldn't believe it actually that it happened. So he wanted to prove that this was actually impossible. How could such empowered souls as Rupa and Sanatan be defeated by such a mundane scholar, an ordinary scholar like Rupa Narayan? In fact, they couldn't even be defeated by a great scholar. What to speak of somebody like that? So he accepted the challenge. And he debated for 1 week and finally defeated Rupa Narayan, who left that place with his tail between his legs. And so Jiva Goswami came, he was very happy with this, and he came to Rupa and Sanatan, and he explained what had happened, because he felt that their reputation had been rectified. But he was surprised when Rupa Goswami told him, "You are a nonsense. You've wasted your time. How could you do this?" So he'd say, "You are banned from Vrindavan." So he left Vrindavan and went to Mathura. And it's believed that he actually stayed in some say in a hole on the bank of a river, some in the hollow of a tree. And he performed austerities there. He would just eat once a day, very simply, like that. And then after some time, quite a long time actually, I don't know how long it was exactly, definitely many months, if not a year, Sanatan Goswami, he heard, that Jiva Goswami was lamenting in separation from his gurus. So Sanatan Goswami went to Rupa Goswami and he said, you're not following one of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instructions. And Rupa Goswami said, what's that? He says, well, you just recite what you've heard from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and when you come to that point, then you'll realize. I'll let you know. So Rupa Goswami started reciting all the teachings he'd heard from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then he came to one word or phrase, Jiva Doya. And then Sanatana Goswami stopped him. Jiva Doya. So Jiva Doya means mercy or compassion on the living entities, the jivas. So Rupa Goswami laughed, because also it meant mercy on Jiva Goswami. So he laughed and he says, okay, bring him here. And he was brought here and reinstated in his position. So this is a very instructive lesson for us, that actually mundane knowledge, of course Jiva Goswami's knowledge was not mundane, but pride in knowledge is a very dangerous thing. And because of course I didn't finish the qualities. One of the qualities of the natural qualities by which Brahmanas work is wisdom. And wisdom means actually application of knowledge. It means being able to apply it to life. So any form of knowledge, if it's just theoretical knowledge or academic knowledge, is useless. So, of course, Jiva Goswami is an eternally liberated soul, but he was prepared to undergo this so-called humiliation of being banned from Vrindavan by his guru for being apparently proud of defeating a scholar. But of course, another point is that, he was prepared to do that for the sake of the reputation of his guru. Because if Rupa Narayan had been able to carry it off, this his so-called victory over Rupa and Sanatan, then others could have said that actually Rupa and Sanatan weren't as greater scholars as everybody was saying they were. So it was necessary for him to do that, but he was prepared to undergo this banishment, this from Vrindavan. I'll just quickly, because actually the 6 Goswamis, they embody all these qualities of Brahmanas. So I talked about peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity. So of course they're pure souls because they have no attachment to anything material. They were just sleeping under a different tree every night. Like I said before, they were giving up all material opulence. And tolerance. It's like Jiva Goswami showed great tolerance. He accepted the punishment of his guru. And would have stayed in that position, living in a hole, for as long as necessary. And then the other qualities are honesty, knowledge, wisdom, and religiousness. Of course, not mundane religion or ritualistic religion, but that religion which is given by the Supreme Lord. So there's a couple of minutes. I'll finish there. If there's any questions, please.